All right. Hello, everybody. This is Coach Malcolm. This is the third video in my series on playing pretty weird, funky openings. Last video, I played the hippopotamus defense for black. We're switching back over to white for this game, and we have the Ware opening. So, who better to look at for the Ware opening than Preston Ware themselves in Manhattan, New York, 1880, the Fifth American Chess Congress. Preston Ware played A4, move 1 for white. Pretty crazy. And then they proceeded with sort of an E3, C3, D4 structure, and then Bishop B5 supported by A4. We're not really going to get into the whole game. That's not what we do in these kind of videos, but I am going to go to my live game soon, play the Ware opening, see how it goes. And if you haven't been here, this is where I play live chess games on Lichess, testing out weird new openings for fun, but also to sort of learn how to develop in new ways, adapt to sort of new positions, new structures, and it's usually pretty fun. So let's create a game. We'll do 5-3. Let's make sure I'm playing white, though I don't really play on Lichess so much, so my rating is higher than this in real life, but we'll see how we get paired. Hopefully we get paired soon. But like I was talking about while we wait to get paired, it's sort of interesting to, usually openings are used in games to sort of help guide you in the beginning, to give you a good starting point to start off a game. So when you play a new opening, something like the Ware, A4, it's more unknown. You kind of have to adapt more as you go along. There's different challenges that you have to face. But we got C5. So why don't we play C3 here, because then we can sort of do our D4 push. Let's sort of, I want to kind of honor in a way, I guess, the work of Preston Ware, we could say. That sounds kind of funny, but sort of play along his structure. I might get my bishop out, though. That could be something that I consider doing, because you can run into some issues. But maybe not. Maybe we can play. See, the problem I'm noticing already is ideas like queen b6 attacking b2 make it much harder to play moves like queen b3 because we don't have that pawn there to help our queen out. But we don't need to worry about that just yet. We can play e3. b2 is well guarded by our bishop. It's just stuff that I'm sort of noticing already. We have bishop b5. I'm just going to play knight f3 for the meantime, develop my knight. We have bishop b5. We have d3 as another option that we can pursue. I kind of like this bishop b5 option. It looks like knight c6. If I play knight e5, maybe rook c8 though, and then I can't really get my queen in on that kind of action. How are we going to develop this bishop? This may just end up being not one of the best bishops the chess world has ever seen. I am going to play bishop d3. I think this is all right. If they take, I'll just take back with my queen. I have queen b5 ideas here. I guess it could be met with queen d7. All right, never mind. Pawn c4 is going to eliminate those ideas. But I'm going to stay on this diagonal, maybe for an e4 push coming up. But first of all, let's just be solid chess players. Let's get our king castled in a way. My opponent has not done a great job developing all of their necessary pieces. But I am going to go e4, try and open up this e-file, target this c4 pawn, which is looking increasingly more weak. But we'll see. C4. If pawn takes, I guess I'd have to take back with my knight because my pawn on my knight on f3 is hanging. This, I guess. So what they played knight d7. So now if I take on b5, pawn takes. It's not a free rook on a8 anymore. So I don't know if that's necessarily what I want to pursue. But I think first I'm going to take on d5. Rook e1 is an interesting option. Here, oh, they're going to take with the knight. All right, so they're taking with the knight in order to not open up sort of the problems that come with that open e-file. I don't see any big threats with this, though. I think we're still pretty solid here. I'm going to play b3, just sort of further attacking at this pawn structure. This one is the one I'm referring to. Sorry, sometimes, it is kind of a little difficult to juggle, I would say, and you can ask your other coaches. Maybe they have different experiences. It's a little hard to juggle talking and narrating the games while playing them. So sometimes I might fade out, or sometimes I might be talking and just not notice something really, really important that could be happening in the position. We've got rook b8. So if I take on b5, probably rook takes b5, or I guess they could play pawn takes if they wanted to. I kind of want to play this move. Well, c3 might hang if I play. I was thinking about playing bishop a3, but then if pawn takes a4, queen takes a4, knight takes c3, I guess there I can take on a6. I am going to play. I'm getting a little more pressed for time. I'm just noticing. All right, they're going to play bishop e7. If you hear my dog barking, it's just a more, a window into my life. I'm going to play rook c3 here, guard that c3 pawn just as a safety cushion. Castles. Here we might end up getting into an isolated queen pawn sort of occurrence. My dog really is aggravating sometimes, but that's all right. That is just how it goes. If we take on b5, I don't like rook takes b5. We may need to sort of do some piece relocation, I would say. Pawn c4 is an interesting idea, but it kind of gives me these two separated pawn islands. Gives me that isolated queen pawn. That's not really the most ideal situation. I think I'm going to play, well, let's take on b5 first. This is interesting. And then if rook takes b5, maybe queen c2. All right, they're not going to take with the rook. Fair enough. I respect the decision. But here our bishop is kind of oddly placed. Why don't we play... See, bishop takes e7, queen takes e7, rook a5, attacking that pawn. They'll likely play b4, and then they're going to have 3 supporters on that square, and that's going to be difficult for me to be playing well against, I guess you could say. This is a tricky position to navigate. I'm going to start off with knight e4, just sort of improving this knight, guarding c3 one extra time. I have ideas to come into c5 and d6 if I want them. I'm not sure they're the best right now, but I do really need to watch my time. All right, they're going to force me to have this isolated queen pawn, which isn't the most, it's not the nicest thing someone can do, but we'll take the IQP. There's still a lot of pieces on the board. There's a lot of play remaining. All right, we've got to take back. Rook takes, I assume, but we'll see. Yes, rook takes. All right, here I think, yeah, queen c3. No, we've got to watch this pawn right here. Maybe I'm going to try and get a d5 push in because that would really help. It's a tricky game. It's a tricky game. All right, I don't see a big threat. Maybe, could I play rook a5 here with the idea to push d5? Would that be sort of too crazy? I definitely can't. Okay, because bishop b4 is going to cause a lot of problems. Let's stay away from that for right now. Let's sort of back this pawn up. Let's give this pawn a little support. I do need to watch my time more, so it means I might be playing a little faster. So I apologize if that happens. All right, knight f6. They are increasing the pressure on that d5 square. Sorry, d5, yeah, they're trying to stop me as much from playing d5. All right, I hear you, I'm going to play queen c6 here, attack this rook, but my knight on e4 is going to still be guarded. Hopefully I don't get any sort of double attack trouble here. That is trouble. Okay, so I need to take with check first. They'll take back, then maybe queen at e4. Yeah, I think we're still fine here. We have 3 defenders on that pawn, 2 attackers. Can't do the d5 push just yet. All right, they're increasing the pressure, but we can kind of do the same. I'm worried about, I was worried about e5, but I think I already have 2 attackers on there. All right, rook d5. That is annoying, obviously, right? They're trying to make it difficult for us to get rid of that IQP weakness in our position. 1, 2, 3 attackers. I kind of like this rook c1 move. I mean, they're trying to come over. I do not have a lot of time. That is the problem. I'm going to play rook c1. Maybe rook c6 is coming. Rook over, they've already played it. All right, let's give ourselves a bit of an escape. This is worrisome, to say the least. Do I need to be worried about? See, the problem with rook takes d4, there's always, I mean, I'm looking at back rank threats. I'm sure that's what my opponent's looking at right now. My queen is looking at h7, but maybe bishop takes d7. I mean, bishop takes d4. All right, I'm going to take back. Knight takes, rook takes, rook takes. We may just end up, they'll be up a pawn in the endgame. Looks like what this is going to be. But I think I'll be able to maybe get my way out of this one, even though it'll be difficult. But let's try and draw this endgame, okay? I'm playing someone who's almost rated 2,000 on Lee Chess. I'm not sure what that rating would be in real life. I am pressed for time, which is annoying, but we'll make it work. Rook c5. I'm going to play h4 here, try and just sort of cut off some more squares. Pawn push again. All right, I see my time. Let's hold this g7 square, make it hard for that king to sort of get anywhere. And then there may be sort of some, not repetition, but sort of repetitive play, just because that's how endgames go a lot of the time. But all right. So, I mean, we'll analyze this game afterwards, see exactly sort of what we think happened. Rook f7 is interesting here. Sort of, if they want to push the g pawn, they're going to lose the f pawn as well. They might go back to g6 here. Yeah. All right. Well, I'll go back to c7. If they want to draw, I'm okay with that here. I don't think this is a winning position. They've played solid the whole game. It may very well be a draw. E4, I don't expect. Maybe e4, and then they'll try f5 push. All right. Do I want to stay with my pawns? Yeah, I'm going to play king e4. They might sort of cut me off here, but I don't think this is too problematic. They do have... All right, so I flagged. That's unfortunate. Okay, fine. Let's take a look at the game, though. I didn't realize my time was running so low. So you lose some, you win some. Let's take a look at this game. Let's turn on our engine. Let's start over. Congratulations to my opponent. E4 here. Well, I was following, sort of Preston Ware's legacy, per se. I guess I could have taken on c5. I was thinking, maybe e5 here, and then they're going to b4. I mean, I don't know. This sort of pawn structure isn't my favorite thing to do, sort of exposing yourself, opening it up that much. E3, knight f3. So it says black is slightly better, but now we're back to pretty equal. Bishop d3, fine. Did they like bishop b5? I mean, we sort of looked at this for a second, right? But we said they could probably play rook c8. All right, there's nothing too special here, especially queen c7. They say it's just better for black. If we continue, bishop d3, queen takes, c4. Okay, queen c2 is good. Castle's fine. I could have played e4 first. They don't say it's the best move, but e4 is interesting to play first, just before that knight f6 gets out. Castles. B3 was another way to attack the pawn structure. Knight d2, e4, e5. Interesting. So this is sort of locking the pawn structure up more. I feel like it would make my bishop bad, but I guess it would make black's bishop worse as well. Knight e5. I'm curious. Knight takes. Pawn takes. I guess this knight sort of doesn't have a lot of options. They could take on e4, but no. See, this is going to be bad for them. They're just too opened up. I'm probably going to get a rook over to the d file. But let's go back to our main line. E4, pawn takes, knight takes. B3 is what I played. Queen takes, fine. This is still a pretty equal game. You can see the engine. Yeah, I mean, we're going through this. Doesn't look nothing out of the ordinary, per se. B4 takes, pawn takes, rook takes, queen c3. All right, so my mistake, I'm curious, how should I have better held on to this IQP? Because that was sort of where it fell apart, you guys. Also, the time pressure, that's sort of about balancing the narration and everything, but I can work on that. Rook d1, knight f6. Obviously, here I do have to take, because the problem, if you didn't catch this during the game, my queen has to move somewhere. She doesn't have a lot of options. She has to stay protecting this knight. Queen c2 isn't going to work because of the rook on c7. So, yeah, knight takes f6. Is the only way to continue. Queen e4, cool. Rook d7, rook a4, so I'm playing good moves here. All right, so this doesn't sit well with Stockfish 11. Rook A1 is better with the idea. I mean, let's see if my opponent just continued. Oh, well, I see. Okay, so the point is you're sort of doubling up the rooks. You're making them a stronger force. Rook A6 is a good move here. So these double rooks on the open file, you're not down a pawn yet. You have a weaker pawn. Black's attacking D4. This just seems good for you. I mean, it says black is slightly better. It's not a draw. There's so many pieces on the board, but it's better than what I did because here my rooks are more separated. I run into this sort of piling on D4 trouble. So this is also a lesson why IQPs, when you trade a lot of pieces, are not that great, especially when you get into more endgame-ish positions. Not that this is an endgame. All right, rook C6 was definitely better here. This was sort of where I started to rush a bit. G3, everything sort of trades off. And then I got into the bitter time trouble. I thought about rook C7 here. I mean, I don't think it's substantially better. King G6 is what I was expecting as well. Let's see. Were there any major moments? Maybe my opponent would have won this game. Maybe not. I'm curious if sort of in my rush, King E4 is a poor choice here. No, it doesn't seem that bad. I likely would have just moved over. If my opponent plays something like F5, I can take on E5. So that's unfortunate. I lost track of time. But I think it's interesting to look at this opening. If we go back just to the very beginning, the Ware, did it have like a huge influence on the game? Not the biggest influence, right? I think it was impactful, though, in sort of creating tension with this pawn structure that was created. It made B3, I guess, a weaker move because it wasn't supported as well. But eventually that pawn was traded off. But, if you think about this position would be different if, say, our pawn was on A2. Bishop A3 was an interesting choice. But anyways, we don't need to sort of keep going into this. All right, so this is my third time playing a funky new opening. I was bound to lose one of them. My opponent played very well. It's also a lesson on IQP sort of trends. But that is the end of this video. I will be back, I am sure, in the near future with another wonky opening. And we'll see how that goes. Hopefully I get a win that time. And I will see you guys then. Bye-bye.